One of the questions that recently came up in the question and answer session when the elders were presenting me and our family to the congregation at Summit Woods was on the subject of the length of the sermon. And one of the individuals, members of the church, bringing up that question had done some research on my sermons and had gone to the First Baptist Church of San Jacinto website and had noticed that the majority of my preaching lasted somewhere right around an hour, and that was pretty consistent for our preaching. And so the question comes up with especially an absence of the 20 and 30-year-olds within the church, not just Summit Woods Church, by the way, but that's really happening in a number of churches across the country. With the absence of that age group, some have wondered, is it really the sermon length that's driving them away? Because in some contemporary educational theory, some have suggested that they simply don't have the capacity to sit and listen and sustain a long, argumented sermon. And so some have suggested that we need to keep things down to 30, 40 minutes, and anything longer than that is really going to be detrimental to younger generations or even some older generations making the best use of the sermon. I do want to be sensitive, and I want to be careful, and I want to be helpful in this issue of preaching and the length of a sermon. And I really think that the key issue to sermons is really not the length of the sermon as much as it is the content of the sermons. And I think the key with the length, in terms of content, generally flows around issues of organization, clarity, and how it's presented to the congregation. Because I think if you take biblical content and you show people very clearly in an organized way and you deliver it in a biblically appropriate, in a passionate manner, and I'm not talking about a manufactured passion, I'm talking about something that seems to flow from the text and it flows from what's being discussed in that passage, I don't think you're going to lack for an audience to hang with you. I think people, especially believers, and that's primarily the group that comes on a Lord's Day morning or evening, they have an interest in biblical content. And if you put that in a compelling way, and if you put that information together in a way that's clearly organized and people see where you're going, they see how you come to conclusions in the text, I have found that they generally hang with you. And even in that young age group as well. In fact, I would have to say that 20 to 30-year-old age group was the group in our church that was traditionally more attracted to my approach to expository preaching. And we never really lacked for that age group being present in our church and being really benefited by the preaching ministry. I've also seen some interesting things just over the past couple of years in what I would say is kind of a revival among young people in exposition and a seriousness about the biblical text. For example, in Louisville, Kentucky, back in April, I attended with my interns who are all in that 20 to 30-year-old age group. I attended the Together for the Gospel conference, and there was about 7,500 people there. The vast majority of those people were in their 20s and 30s, and they sat there and listened attentively, soaking it all in, to about 8 sermons, each one at least, some of them going well over an hour, some an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes. I also saw the same thing happen this summer at the Resolved Conference, which is all college-age students, where they just heard sermon after sermon, some heavy sermons from some well-known expositors. And those college students sat taking notes, engaged, 3,000 of them really engaged in that. I think there is a thirst for serious Bible exposition. I think if you will listen to some of my own preaching, you listen to some effective expositors, much more effective than I am, I think you'll see that people will hang with a very clear, well-organized, appropriate passion that's shared through that sermon. People are going to hang with that, and I think there is a thirst for that, and I don't want to minimize that or miss that as well. I hope that's helpful. And again, as in all of these posts, if I can dialogue with you a little bit more in the comment section, I'd love to do that. And I appreciate the opportunity to address some of these issues, and we can do that more. If you're part of the Summit Woods Church, when we are out there next week, we would love to dialogue with you even more on that subject. Thanks a lot.